Okay, the video you just watched covered a lot of different space probes that we've seen in history. So, for starters, we've answered this a couple times already, but what is a space probe? It's going to be a robotic spacecraft that doesn't require a person to be on board. So, there's no astronauts on a space probe. We can send it up and either have it on a one-way trip where it never comes back and just sends information. It could orbit a planet or a moon and then come back. It could orbit a planet or a moon and then stay there, or it could actually just land on something like some of the space probes on Mars, like the Curiosity rover. So, why use a space probe instead of just sending a trained astronaut to do the same job? Well, we have to think about how dangerous it is for someone to actually go out into space. It takes years and years of training, and even then, you have all these really harsh environments that are not meant for humans to live in or not suitable for life. So using a space probe allows us to go places that a human would never survive. We also have to think about resources. If we send a probe out to space and it's out there for 20 years, well, we don't have to feed that probe. We don't have to give it a place to live. We don't have to give it water. Where if we send a human out for even just a few days, we have to make sure it has food and water and all the resources that it needs, as well as a place to live, a place to sleep, a place to do its basic functions. So a space probe, we don't have to worry about using all of those resources for. That means we can make it a lot smaller. We don't have to worry about loading it with things that it needs. All it needs is an energy source and a direction. So there is a lot of technology that goes into getting a human somewhere really far. The amount of effort it took to get someone to space in the 1960s and the 1970s, it was a lot. It took thousands of people and billions of dollars. So to send somebody to Mars when instead we could just send like a remote controlled robot to Mars is a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and takes a lot less technology for us, where we don't have to keep that robot alive. We just have to keep it running. So one thing I want to point out in this video that you just watched about the history of some space probes is even just some of the dates. For example, on this part of the video, it talked about Dawn and Juno. These are space probes that are relatively new, and we're constantly sending new ones up. There's a new one that landed on Mars not too long ago. But even Juno was a space probe that was setting first in that category. And, it's been like built and sent up in the time that you guys have been alive. So when we talk about history, we're not talking about a really long time ago history. We're talking about pretty current history. One thing they also pointed out on here, which I thought was kind of cool, was some of the Easter eggs on some of these, such as the Legos on the Juno. There is a space probe that has been going for about 40 years now. It is about 11 billion miles away. And that actually has a little golden record on it that has information that scientists put on there in case somebody finds it. If some aliens find it, they have some information about where Earth is and like what our culture is like. At the very end of this lesson, there will be a fun little kind of comic video if you want to watch that in addition to your work. It's only a couple of minutes, but maybe that golden record is something you can try and spot in that video. So why are we talking about space probes so much? We started with space history, and we're ending like the last half of class with space probes. That is something that we're going to be seeing a lot of in Module 1. Our first module is all about the geology of Mars. And as you know, no one's ever landed on Mars. We don't have people up there to do the studying for us. So instead, we have probes up there that are sending back images and sending back soil samples and information. They're able to analyze it and then get that data back to Earth for scientists here to study. So you're going to be seeing a lot of real-time data and real information about Mars. All of that is information that we've gotten from space probes, like the Curiosity rover, that is already up there. So as you look through these different probes and you watch these videos and you go ahead and answer your open-ended response at the end of this class, I want you to kind of make that connection between why we're looking at space probes in today's lesson and then what we're going to do the next couple of weeks as we look at all of the geology of Mars. So your last thing today is an open-ended response. You're going to answer it in a Google form. So make sure when you're done filling in your one open-ended response in complete sentences that you scroll all the way to the bottom and hit submit so that I don't have to ask you to do it again later on. All right, you can go ahead and watch